Well, welcome back to a different version of Viking 70 Flashback. And today we're going to revisit our 1970 It's Academic team. So with me on the screen in the first video version of one of these things, we have Jim Meil, who is on my left in my version. Below Jim is Max Gorensek, and right below me then is Don Reed. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Hi, Neil. Hi, everybody.
For starters, what have you been doing for the last 50 years? So Don, why don't you go first?
Okay, Neil, when I left St. Joe's, I went to the University of Notre Dame for college, moved on to graduate school in the Washington, D.C. area at Catholic University of America, studied theology and philosophy, thinking I was going to teach. That really didn't pan out. By the time I finished my first dissertation, I was a father of married with 4 kids, and jobs were few and far between. So I ended up with a career in the IT industry. Eventually had a company of my own with a woman partner who I'd worked with for a few years, and got out of that a few years ago and retired. And now I just attend Cleveland Indians baseball games year round.
So there's some irony that a few minutes ago your computer crashed on you, since you're an IT professional.
I didn't say I was a good one. Just
I appreciate your candor and honesty. All right, we'll go clockwise here. So Max, why don't you tell us, what have you been doing the last 50 years?
Sure. After St. Joe's, I got my bachelor's and master's degrees in chemical engineering from Case, and then I went to Princeton for my PhD. I spent roughly 40 years since then in research and development, and the last 2 decades at the Savannah River National Laboratory in Aiken and in South Carolina. And I met a librarian from Maple Heights at the Euclid Public Library 33 years ago. We fell in love, and I married her a year later, and we've got 2 grown daughters, both living in North Carolina, and we're pretty well known in our parish community here in Aiken. Amory is the parish school librarian, and me as a cantor, church soloist, and also very active in the Knights of Columbus.
Wow, so you're singing in church. That's very impressive.
I'm a church singer.
Cool, cool. All right, Jim, take it away.
Thanks, Neil. I went to college too at the University of Chicago. I met the girl of my dreams on a blind date, which generally work out best for me. We've been married for 42 years. We celebrated our anniversary last week. We've got 4 wonderful children scattered around the world: Hawaii, Myrtle Beach, New York City, and St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. I'm an economist by trade. I made it to chief economist at Eaton Corporation, retired 2014. I'm a consultant now, so I failed at retirement. For fun, assuming that one can define such a thing, I drink beer, I read, and I write. I hope upon death that my corpus or my corpse will be discovered, and that I'll either be the next Emily Dickinson, and failing that, maybe the next Angie Dickinson. So that's what I've been up to.
Okay, so gentlemen, 50 years ago, you became the St. Joe's representatives on our It's Academic team.
Oh my gosh, look at those young guys.
Look at those young
hair.
Yes, with
hairband from the 70s. No, it's not.
So what do you remember about that whole process? How did it start?
It was a cattle call of some kind. I don't know if it was the PA or if it was in the Norseman, but I remember there was a call for people that were interested, and it was after school, and there were tryouts. It was over a couple months, I think.
Yeah, really. It was a long kind of audition process. How many guys do you think were in the room when it first started?
Might have been maybe 24, maybe something like that.
Yeah. And I do remember that Mr. Salzman, Jerry Salzman, who was teaching math, teaching physics, he was the moderator for the program. He was in many senses, he was a young teacher, he was very idealistic.
I think they all were. I mean, there were a couple old guys, and then all the other teachers were like a few years older than us, which we didn't really appreciate at the time.
And I do remember Jerry, he was very, very big on music. I mean, he was a big follower of Bob Dylan, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I mean, he'd look at our teeny bopper music sometimes like Three Dog Night, and he'd shake his head no. And then when we talked about Blind Faith or Crosby, Stills, Nash, he'd nod yes. Dylan, yes.
I sang with the Glee Club, and he was the accompanist for at least a few of the concerts. I remember he was an outstanding pianist, very talented guy.
A few years later, I was watching TV in Chicago, and I happened to be watching Jeopardy. This is when they started to revive the show in the early 1980s, and lo and behold, there he was, right on the screen. I think he won, so good for him. Supplemented his St. Joe pension, no doubt.
The only Jerry Salzman story I remember is that he and Jim or Max, you may know this, in math, he taught us how to win at Vegas. He claimed he was part of a team that had, were card counters, and they calculated something like a 0.2% advantage that they had, and they went out and tried to implement it out there, but they didn't have a big enough bankroll to make it through. He got kicked out of a couple of places when they realized he had some sort of system, and he ramped up to, I don't know, 10 grand or something like that, and then they crashed. But
he was a really smart guy.
Yeah.
And some of you might recall the year before our year, there were some bright math students. Frank Glazer, I think Phil Sejnowski, and then he got us, and I think we discouraged him. I mean, he had such talent the year before, and then he had us morons. So
all right, so there was 24 guys in the room. How did Jerry Salzman figure out who was going to be the team that actually got to sit behind this desk and look so important? And you all had glasses at that time, so you already were smart. I didn't earn my glasses till much later in life. How did he make cuts? What did that process look like?
He started out with the Jeopardy home edition, for the first couple of nights at least. And I think after that, made some changes. So we were supposed to be a test of both academic and popular knowledge on the show. So we started out with the popular side. And I think it probably favored the three of us, obviously, because we did okay. Whereas like maybe somebody like Don Steiner, the top kids in the class academically, probably from grade point average, were probably like Steiner and Palella, I would say, and Jim and Max might agree. So, they asked Don Steiner to go to the board and prove the Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem. He'd been home free. But if you ask him who Rudy Kazudi was, maybe that wasn't as good a match for him, Whereas the three of us were good at the generic stuff. I think I was an inch deep and a mile wide in terms of.
I think, as Don said, we were masters of useless knowledge.
That's right.
How did he tell you that you were it? I mean, was it a hat and he drew your names out of it? I mean, how did he do it?
I think we knelt down in a cathedral and we were dubbed with a sword. Is that what you guys recall?
That's exactly, you're right, Jim. Yeah, that's how it happened.
Spot on.
Yeah, just based on point scores, I think he picked us.
Yeah.
I told the guys, the only thing I remember was I was doing good on the Jeopardy portion. And that was after the second night, he took me aside just to make it clear to me that he would never allow me to be the captain of the team because he didn't trust me.
Wow.
And that was very perceptive, because I would have done something mischievous if I had been given the opportunity. So, and maybe this is a good time to acknowledge our alternates, because they were really bright guys. Ken Campman, Jerry Lutkus, Glenn Thompson, and an underclassman, I guess.
Don Cook.
Don
Cook.
Yeah, so they were really good guys, and there wasn't much really separating the bunch of us. I think
Sure.
that was really, I don't know if anybody dropped out. It was really a bright group of guys, and any of them could have done what we did.
And I don't know if Max and Don remember this, but I seem to recall that in addition to the tryouts and the practices we had at St. Joe, WEWS, which was the local outlet that ran it, they had an audition too. And I recall that we went down to their studio and we brought pretty much the full team, not just the three of us and the alternates, but I think we brought 20 guys out there. I seem to recall, and this is for 50 years ago, that there were two functionaries who ran a battery of questions by us, and we got them all bang, 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 bang. So they actually thought we were good. And we were, let's say we were more numerous than we were good, but that helped establish, let's say, the pecking order or the competition that we faced in the ultimate show. I will say, I think we all recollect that the competition that we faced was pretty good.
It was.
So let's talk about the night of. So who were the other teams? It was Beechwood and somebody else.
Mayfield.
So how did the night go? What happened?
We all recollected differently. We took our seats there, and we went through the three rounds. And my recollection is we were behind from the start and never made up that ground. Although we did manage to beat Mayfield, so there was that. Beechwood was intimidating, right? We heard going in, they maybe were trying to psych us out. We heard going in that at least one and maybe all three of them had double 800s on their SATs. They were they were the heavyweights for sure in Jim's analogy. So I'm walking in there, I thought, well, these guys are going to be hard, if not impossible to beat. On the other hand, Mayfield seemed like somebody that if we didn't beat him, it would really be embarrassing.
I remember it slightly differently from Don. That is, I think there were 3 rounds, and I think we were close in the first and second. It was in the third, which was sort of a round table, a grab, maybe they called it the grab bag round, yeah. But everybody could participate, and we started to fall behind, and that's when the gap opened up. And so, we adopted that Hail Mary strategy at the end, which is we just started wild guessing.
You can say wild. It's okay.
Thank you, Neil.
Do you remember a specific question or a specific moment? We tend to remember our triumphs and our traumas. So was there one of those during the course of the evening? Did you handle a tough question or?
The trauma for me, only thing I remember is a question I screwed up. So, and that last speed round, whatever it was, where you just hit the buzzer. It was a question about a poem by T.S. Eliot, or a group of poems called the Four Quartets, and I hit the buzzer and blurted out the 4 quatrains. And as I was saying it, I knew I had misspoken, and I've never forgotten that failure.
See, the traumas, they become, you put them in a sack and you carry them around your whole life, and they just, weight you down.
That's the only thing I carried away from that show, is that one screw up.
It's a memory, though. That's good. Max, how about you? Do you remember anything specifically?
Given the fact that we had a winning sports teams, and we just couldn't quite carry our end of the deal.
I think it's time for us to recreate the fun that you had 50 years ago on It's Academic, and I have prepared a list of questions to challenge the team now. So I think we'll do it the same way. There'll be 3 rounds, multiple questions in each round, and then the first round is 1970s Trivial Pursuit. So this might seem very familiar to what Mr. Saltzman did to get you going. The second round is from another game I had, a 1990s Jeopardy round. So you have to answer in the form of a question then, just for that one. And the final round is the Viking round, and we'll make that the grab bag where you can just jump in and you don't have to play as a team. Does that sound fair? We'll try to do this quickly. All right? Okay, here we go. The 70s round from Trivial Pursuit. What was the name of the fisherman in The Old Man and the Sea?
Jesus Christ.
I don't recall him having a name other than the old man.
Well, the answer is Santiago. Santiago. Okay. What 1935 film propelled Errol Flynn to fame?
Do we have anyone from Beechwood here?
They're buzzing in.
I think he was a pirate.
Close. Captain Blood was the name of that film. Captain Blood. Okay. Here's one that I'm sure you'll know. Where are a snail's reproductive organs?
Hidden.
Hidden? Jim, what'd you say?
Hidden.
Hidden? Contraire. They're on its head.
I was going to say that was little antennae, but I just
who knew? I did not know that. Okay. All right, here's what I'm sure you'll know. What's the name of Tonto's horse?
Silver?
That's a
Lone Ranger.
That's a Lone Ranger, yeah. Tonto.
Oh, my. Neil, are you going to edit this out?
Yeah, maybe I might. Scout. The name of the horse was Scout. Okay. All right.
One of the Beechwood guys won.
Yeah. Where does a rabbit punch land in boxing? A rabbit.
Below the belt.
No, the back of the head. That's a rabbit punch. Okay, let's move on to the 1990s. I'm sure that was a much better time.
We didn't get any of those, did we?
I don't think you did. All right, 1990s. Now, this is from the 90s Jeopardy game. They're not really all 90s questions, but a couple of them are. Okay. All right, so remember, got to answer in the form of a question.
Captain Blood.
She was on the Mickey Mouse Club before topping the charts with Baby One More Time.
And that finished.
Britney Spears.
Who was?
Britney Spears, Max. It was Britney Spears. Very good. All right, now we're on a roll. Okay. Many of Australia's permanent lakes are man-made, including Lake Gordon, in this island state.
What is Victoria?
What is Tasmania?
Tasmania, Max. That's 2 for Max here in this round. All right. Here we go. This boy band was named after an open air market in Orlando, Florida, where the band was formed.
What are the Backstreet Boys?
3 for Max. All right, he's just pulling away, pulling away. All right, here we go. Question 4. Clark Gable's 3rd wife and the star of My Man Godfrey is entombed beside him in Forest Lawn.
Who is Hedy Lamarr?
Close, close. It's a name just like that. Carol Lombard. Carol Lombard. Okay, well, that might have been a little tough. All right, now this one's really tough. There are 356 rivers that flow into this Siberian lake, but only one river, the Angara, flows out of it. What is the lake?
Lake Irkutsk.
It's good. I remember that from Risk.
That's not it, is it?
No, no. No one has been to Siberia.
Lake Baikal?
Yes, yes, Jim Meil, yes.
No, that was my second guess.
You didn't inform us.
Wow, very impressive. All right, okay. Now we're on. That was good. All right, we're now on to the Vikings round. So 5 questions that I'm sure you will know.
Uh-oh.
All right. Besides the class president, Bob Viska, what other students spoke at our graduation? Here's a hint.
Don Steiner?
No.
Phil Herrick.
No.
I'm not even going to try this. I'm not even going to attempt this.
Well,
No idea.
Denny Minicello, Harold Rutherford, Pete Ciafani, and Jerry Lutkus. So now I have Tom Bodel to thank because I called him. That's why I was late to get here because I was calling Tom trying to get some trivia stuff. So
Well, we have Tom Bodel to blame.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Okay, so who played the character Eddie Ryan in our musical Funny Girl?
Carmen. No,
She was the female lead. This was like the male second role, really. One of our own.
Jerry Serino.
Yes, Jerry Serino. Very good. Okay. What typing teacher had no vowels in his last name?
Mr. Sir.
Mr. Surf. All right, that was good. All right. What was the final score of our season-ending game against St. Ed's?
14-6.
No. We kicked their butts.
22-0. Something.
Yes, 22-0. Way to go, Don. Excellent. All right. One last question. Who were the top 3 students in our class academically? I think this is grade point average.
Don Steiner?
By what measure?
Grade.
Steiner and Palella, we 1 and 2, I would think.
No.
Yep.
And third, I don't know, go with Ken.
Max Gorensek.
Nope, no.
Joe Clements.
Joe
Oh,
Clement.
okay, Joe, yeah. Oh, that's
And Tom thinks he might have been first.
that
So
could be.
yeah. So all right. Well, I thought you acquitted yourself pretty well in the Vikings round, and Max was stellar in the '90s round, and clearly the '70s are to be forgotten.
50 years ago.
I know. Well, or at least the game's to be forgotten. So, well, is there anything we should have teased out from this marvelous conversation? You know, is there some great story?
Well, how did its academic experience change your lives forever?
So Don, how did it? Obviously, it scarred you for life.
Yeah, it's scarred me for life. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but certainly the 2 things that stick in my head were running into the Beechwood buzzsaw, right? These guys were just clearly superior and seemed to have been trained from the womb for this process. My first thought was, that up until that point, I thought I was a pretty smart guy. Well, I think we probably all did. You're fairly confident in that age, and all of a sudden we were running into smarter guys. The rest of life continued that process. I thought so. My first thought was, you think you're pretty smart, but turns out the world is full of smart guys. And the second thing is, I didn't feel like I was very well prepared. I don't recall doing much practicing. We had the little test to get picked for the team, but we didn't drill afterwards. I didn't spend any time preparing for the experience. And so I remember always there's an old Joe Frazier quote, a great role model for us about road work. And he says, if you cheated on it in the dark of the morning, it's going to show up under the bright lights. That's how I felt, down there on it's academic. Then we got there. It was too late to prepare. These guys were better than we were, and we were outmatched. And hopefully there was a life lesson on that, because later in life I learned how to work a little harder at what I needed to work at. But back in high school, I was just gonna wing it, count on being a smart guy. And that turned out to be a bad strategy.
Max, any lifelong takeaways?
Well, I think Don put it well. I think we learned a little humility coming into that competition, because we all felt like we were on top of the world, and there, as John said, there are a lot of bright people out there. It was a good lesson in humility. And for me personally, my sister was on the It's Academic team a year later for Notre Dame Academy, and of course her team won. So so that was a little family, fodder for discussion. But it's certainly the value of preparation. I think we didn't really do anything outstanding to prepare ourselves, and I think the team from Beechwood probably took the competition more seriously, and also there was quite a bit of talent on that team.
Jim?
Number one, I determined that my game show career was over and that it was time to delegate. Number one, and along with that, Mr. Salzman turned out to have a promising career in game shows. My wife, who is from Alliance, she was on their It's Academic team and she won, even though they beat East Liverpool, where they're still discovering dentistry. Ultimately down the road, she too, like Mr. Salzman, was on a lucrative game show called Press Your Luck, where she won $40,000, which is pretty good, and probably would have been far better than my appearance on Press Your Luck, which would have been another loser. So delegation is very important. That was my lesson.
Well, that's excellent. Well, this was fun, you guys. I appreciate you taking the time and doing this.
There was another lesson just from this experience with you is there's no reason not to get in touch with our classmates. We've got this mailing list of like 200 people, and I see all kinds of names on there I know, including Max's, but this is the first time I think Max and I have talked in nearly 50 years. Yeah. And, coronavirus or not, none of us is going to live forever. So if you're thinking about getting in touch with any of your old classmates, for the people that are watching this, well, by all means do it. It's been great talking to the three of you, and I hope to stay in touch with Jim and Max going forward. And I regret that I passed on opportunities in the past to make contact, because the opportunity was there and I just didn't take advantage of it.
And so it's good, Don, to hear you talk about that. It's not too late to reconnect and to enjoy some late in life camaraderie from folks that we've known much earlier in their lives. So that's what I think the whole reunion can be about. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you. And we'll see you in September. Sounds great.